Shayna, this is for you. So this is Tuna Noodle Casserole. It's adapted from the Better Homes and Gardens cookbook. Adapted because I don't do it exactly like they say. Tell me what you're trying to say, dear.
Battery low.
Ignore it. Okay. So I've already cut some of the celery and some of the onions, but I wanted you to see how to cut celery and onions. I cut this celery in half and washed it because it was a little bit tight. Usually when you wash it, you want to run your thumb through the middle. This one I couldn't do it unless I cut it in half, and you want to make sure there's no bugs, no dirt. Okay, so you want to cut, this is a paring knife, cut your little halves of celery in half again, and just chop like so. Okay? So that will finish off what we need for our celery. We have a total now of 2 cups of celery. Okay? So 2 cups of celery go into this. I'm putting it in this cup, in this bowl here. This is called prep. The French call it mise en place. I don't care. In America, it's prep. Okay, I'm going to put these aside because we'll just munch on those later. We already have half a cup of onion. Because we're making more than one recipe, so I'm going to do another half a cup of onion. I cut it in half first, then I slice it lengthwise, being careful with my fingers and thumbs. This is why I use this kind of knife. And then I cut it, turn it a little bit, and cut it across. Okay? Now, super duper handy chefs use big knives, but beginners, this is awesome. And also, anybody who has motor hand-eye coordination issues like me, this is the best way to do it to avoid cutting oneself. Okay, so we have our onion, oops, on the counter apparently. That's where it's going to stay. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to saute our onion and our celery first to get it softened, to get it what we call transparent or translucent. Okay, so we're going to put this into here. By the way, in the back is our pasta cooking. A lot of water. We're having elbow macaroni, and the pasta is in there. Okay, so this is the recipe originally calls for cream of mushroom soup. I cannot use canned cream of mushroom soup or cream of celery soup, as it were, because I'm allergic. Okay, so just going to put these away and grab a spoon. And now I didn't put any oil in this. So there are 2 ways to saute. One is with oil to get them transparent. Another is just to use a little bit of water. And I don't have the fire on yet. I'm going to use a little bit of water. That is time for the pasta to be done. So I'm going to take this and film what I do, even though you won't see me. You'll see what's going on while my husband empties the pot of pasta in the back. So here we have a close-up of the thing. I'm going to mix it, and it's just going to saute there until the onions are translucent. I have it on a pretty high fire, actually. Okay, so he's draining the pasta. He's going to use it with the lid to drain it, and holding it with pot holders. Okay, so this may take a little bit of while to get this transparent. What we're going to do is basically turn this into a creamy celery onion sauce. So after it's transparent, I'm going to add flour to it and silk soy milk. And then we're going to add the tuna. Now I also like to add, and you're probably going to think this bit's funny, but a little bit of chicken consomme from Osem. I find it gives it a nice flavor, and it makes up for the fact that we are not using cream of mushroom soup. Okay? So I'm going to give this back to my husband, who will continue filming. Okay? So this is on what we call a medium-high flame, because I want to get this done kind of quickly since I'm filming it. If we could pause, we would pause. I don't know how to pause this.
What do I do?
Just keep filming, I guess. But I'm going to get the Osem out of here, which is my pantry, so hold on a sec. Just patience. Okay, so this is the Osem chicken broth. And it has no actual chicken in it. No chickens were harmed in the making of this. It's parve, in other words. Okay, so I'm going to put my spoon down because I can't do this at the same time. And what I'm going to do is I have this little bitty cup here. I'm going to put 1 spoon of the osum in it. And I keep a plastic spoon in it for said purpose. And then I'm going to add the flour that I need. Now, since I'm going to be using 2 cups of water, I need at least 2 tablespoons of flour, probably 3 to make a nice thick sauce with the milk. And it has to go over all of the thing. And hopefully there's a spoon in here because I keep a plastic spoon in here so it's easy. Okay, so I'm going to put 3 heaping spoons, these are teaspoonfuls, heaping teaspoonfuls of the flour. And this is unbleached all-purpose flour, just, you know, your typical flour. I like it unbleached because I think it's a tad healthier, but it's not whole wheat. Okay, and while we're waiting, I am also going to measure out my first cup of soy milk. Now I'm using Silk unsweetened USDA organic. I like the organic stuff. That means there's no genetically modified organisms in it. This is OUD, however, but it was made in dairy equipment. So you couldn't use it with a fleishik meal. Instead, I would use almond milk for that. Okay? So if you're doing fleishiks or using fleishik equipment, I'm using dairy equipment. That's 1 cup. Now when I measure 1 cup, I go down here and it should be at the 1 cup measure at that line over here. Okay? This is approximately 1 cup. I got it slightly above, but I'm not going to spill the milk because, well, I actually need more than 1 cup, so I'm good. Okay, so hold on. Let's check on our veg. So it's just starting to get a little bit translucent. It's not there yet. And, you know, because we're going to bake this after, it doesn't really matter as much. And by the way, if you're putting this in the oven right after making it, you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Okay? That's Fahrenheit. Don't know what that is in Celsius, but it's 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? So, and you want to have also available a rectangular pan, because when you're done mixing them together in this, we're going to put them in a rectangular pan so that we can bake it in the oven. We'll show you that in a bit. Okay, so this is translucent. I'm going to turn it off for a minute so I can add the flour. I don't want to have lumps, so I want to add the flour with the flame off. If I do it with the flame on, I'm going to get lumps everywhere. So right now I'm just mixing it in, and it kind of looks a bit lumpy at this point, but I'm going to add the milk and I'm going to whisk it. Okay? So, stir it first because I have a spoon. So I'm going to do this, adding a little bit of milk at a time, and eventually I'll have 2 cups of the soy milk in there. So I want to mix it nice and well so that the flour actually gets well blended in and we don't get lumpy flour. Because who wants to eat a big lump of flour, right? Okay. So let me get 1 more cup. Now, normally I would not advise leaving your spoon in a pot, but the flame is off. Spoons conduct heat. Don't leave them in your pots unless your pots are off, okay? 1 more cup. Okay. So 1 more cup goes in. And remember, in the flour, we also had 1 spoon of the osum. Okay? So, I'm asking, okay, like you're actually here right now, but, you know, this is what I do. Okay, so now that this is nice and it's well mixed, I am going to turn the flame back on. That was me handing a cup to my husband because I couldn't hold 2 things at once. And we're going to cook this until it's a bit thick. Not so thick that you can stand up your spoon, but we want it to be thickened sort of like gravy-like or cheese sauce-like, okay? And what happens is 2 things. 1, the flour is going to lose its rawness, okay? The vegetables will get cooked a little bit more, and it will thicken with the flour. Once it's thickened, that's when we're going to add the tuna. And once we add the tuna, we're going to mix it with the pasta that is, again, elbow macaroni. I'm just going to hit this twice. Okay, maybe 3 times or 4. I lost count. But there's some onions stuck to it. If I had another spoon, I would scrape it. You can use a whisk for this if you want, but this metal spoon usually does a pretty good job. Let me just get rid of this. Okay. Again, I have some veg stuck to it. Hopefully when I stir it in with the noodles, that'll come off. Otherwise, I'll use another spoon to do that. Okay, so you get the idea with this. It is starting to get thickened. It's not quite there yet. It's still a little bit soupy. We want it to look like a thick soup, like a condensed soup that you might get out of your can. Okay? It's a little hot over here though. Probably not as hot as where you are though. Okay, so, and you can play with the heat. You don't want the heat or the flame so high that the fire is coming out from under your pot. That is counterproductive and you're losing energy that way. You want it to remain just under your pot. And if it's just under your pot and going all the way to the edge, that's called a high flame for that pot. So it's kind of relative to your pot and your pot size. Okay. It's a little too hot for my liking, so I'm going to turn it down just a smidge. And how YouTube will like this when I load it up, I don't know. So now I'm going to go over, it's mostly thickened, and the rawness is out of the flour, so it doesn't have that raw flour taste anymore. It's not a dark sauce, as you can see. It's quite pale in color. You don't want it to look like a roux, which is what they use in Cajun cooking. Just a moment while I get the tuna. Okay, so there's 2 cans of tuna, and we're using Mishpacha brand. Not that it matters, but these are, the cans are 6-ounce cans, which is 170 grams in case you need Israeli measurements, I don't know. And I'm just going to scrape it out. This is 1 can, and we're using 2 total cans, okay? Now we're using 1 pound of pasta total.
What?
Also, I forgot to mention that. So we're going to use 1 pound of pasta. I'm going to stir this in, get the other can, and repeat the process so that we have all of the tuna in here. Okay, hold on. Cleanup will happen later, obviously. And we put this in. Now, I'll give this a good stir so it's well incorporated with the other ingredients, and break up any really huge bits of tuna because you want every bite to have a little bit of tuna in it. Now, we're tripling or quadrupling, multiplying the recipe by 4 for the pasta, but I'm not multiplying all the other ingredients by 4. I'm multiplying them by 2. Actually, the onions were multiplied by 4, so we have 1 cup of onions instead of just a half a cup. But I didn't multiply the celery by that. I didn't have that much celery, so I used what I had, okay? So now I'm going to turn this off, put the can down, and I'm going to open the pasta. Again, this is elbow macaroni. And it's, in this case, it's whole wheat. All right? So here is our elbow macaroni, an entire 2-pound thing. I'm going to break it up a little bit because when you drain it and it sits, it will get clumpy. So you want to break it up so it's nice and loose. And then I'm going to take a pot holder, or in this case, a towel, a dairy towel, and I'm going to use it to hold the pot. I usually use a pot holder, but this was closer. I'm not one of those chef people that uses towels for everything. I usually have my pot holders right where I need them. Okay, so I've gotten everything that I can out of here, and now I want to mix it so it's nice incorporated. Everything is coated with both the sauce and the veg and the tuna. Okay, and now I have to put it in a pan. Now again, this is not on the flame, so I can indeed leave the spoon in there for a minute while I get a baking dish. This is a 9 by 13 baking dish. It's non-stick. Bit on the old side, but that's okay. And we're going to pour this in as best as we can and spread it out afterwards. Anything that I can't get out, let me spread this first because it's too high. Okay, so I want it nicely spread out. Let me get the rest of this. Then at this point I can actually hold it one-handed, but you can get somebody to help you with this part. Like I often get my husband to help me with this part. And fortunately the handles of this pot are insulated, so they're not hot at all. Now we spread it, and the last bit is I have a little bit of leftover Daiya cheese, not a whole package, but a little bit, and I'm going to put that on top. Get all of it off there. Notice the onions are now that were stuck are off. Put this in here for a second. Get the cheese. Okay, this is mozzarella, but it also works well with the cheddar style. In fact, the cheddar style is my favorite for this particular dish. And this is what's left over when we made a pizza. So it's like, well, I'll tell you as soon as I get this package open. Gee. Well, I'm going to hand that to my husband. He's going to open it because for some reason my fingers aren't working right now. And I have no idea what I'm filming. I may be filming me. I may be filming nothing. So, okay, there we go. So we have the package open. If all else failed, I would have gotten a pair of scissors. But there's probably about a quarter of a cup to a half of a cup left in here. And I'm going to try to give an even sprinkle. So even if it's thin, just so every bit gets a little bit. There's not that much cheese in here, but it's just a nice little extra. Okay, and the rest will go there. Now the nice thing is we also have what we call here sprinkle cheese. And sprinkle cheese is a mix of almonds, nutritional yeast, and salt. A little bit of salt, not much. And when we serve it, we sprinkle it there. It's like a vegetarian Parmesan, a vegan Parmesan. We're going to put this in the oven covered with either tin foil or parchment paper and tin foil, which is my preferred method because stuff doesn't stick to parchment. And it's going to bake in the oven for at a 375 degree oven. 375 degree oven for 25 to 30 minutes. And if you want, you can leave it uncovered the last 5 minutes to get a little browning on the cheese. That's it. Wish you luck. Have a great Shabbos. And okay.
It's still going or not?